What can you tell me about voodoo?
Voodoo? Why would you want to know about that, Detective? It's rather silly, isn't it?
There's nothing silly about the voodoo murders.
But that voodoo is faked. That's what I've read in the papers.
That's what the papers say, all right.
But you're not convinced?
No, frankly, I'm not. The police department isn't known for its imagination.
Oh. Well, I can see that your imagination is considerable.
Are you sure you can't tell me anything about voodoo?
I really don't know much about it. Isn't there some place in town that you can find out about that sort of thing? A museum or something?
I believe there is a museum.
Then maybe you should check there.
All right.
Tell me about your life in New Orleans.
The Getty family came to New Orleans in 1800. We worked very hard to get where we are. On the other hand, we've done a lot for this community.
I can believe that. You're doing a lot for me right now.
Okay.
Tell me more about New Orleans.
I'm afraid I don't get out into New Orleans society much. Because of the Getty money, we have slots in the best country clubs and on the best Mardi Gras courts. But I must admit, I hate it. I avoid actually making an appearance unless it becomes absolutely necessary.
I know about those courts. They're very exclusive.
Yes, especially when it comes to people of my race. That's why we don't turn down the appointments. It's a rare opportunity to rub their noses in it. But that's not where I spend my time. I have more important things to do with my life.
That's admirable. Many women would love the chance to get caught up in that kind of life.
I'm not any kind of woman you might be familiar with.
Yes, I can see that.
This is seriously the longest I've ever had a conversation with her. Usually she kicks me out.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No, I'm afraid I can't help you with that, Detective.
Do I have to flirt with her more?
Excuse me.
Thank you. Then you must... I think this has gone on long enough. You're not really a detective, are you?
Who, me? Well, I am on this case, Miss Getty.
I saw you at the lake yesterday. I thought you must be with the police since you were there, but you don't act like a police officer. Besides, I'm rather certain that the other man said his name was Mosley.
All right, you caught me. I'm not with the police. My name is Gabriel Knight. I'm a writer working with Detective Mosley on a book.
Well, Mr. Knight, now that we've established who you are, perhaps you can tell me the real reason you're here.
Well, I am researching the book, and I thought you might have seen or heard something at the lake.
I don't like liars, Mr. Knight.
Okay, you're right. I really just wanted to see you again. You can be mad at me if you want, but I swear I've never done anything like this before.
He probably has.
Mr. Knight, you've lied about your identity and wasted my time with meaningless questions. If it weren't vaguely flattering, I'd really be angry. You're lucky I don't call the real police.
Compliment? I think so.
I think you should go, Mr. Knight.
Malia, wait. If you just give me a chance.
I've wasted enough time. I'll have Robert show you out. Robert? Show Mr. Knight out, please.
I most certainly will.
I hate you.
Thank you very much. I had a lovely time. Ah, shit.
Yep, okay. What did we learn? Where will we go now? Well, I think we're at a dead end with that for the time being. French Quarter. Oh yeah, we did not check out this museum.
Welcome, my friend.
Hello?
I am the proprietor, Dr. John. If you have any questions, I will be happy to assist.
Great. My name is Knight, and I'll probably take you up on that.
Dr. John was played by Michael Dorn, who played Worf on Star Trek The Next Generation. That's why his voice is so awesome.
A street drama has settled outside the museum.
There's a lot of stuff to check out here. Okay.
It's an electrical switch.
We'll have to push that at some point.
On the table is a small coffin. So small, in fact, that it would only fit an infant.
Charming. Reminds me of a book critic for the New York Times. He's got more hair than Mosley.
Flickering candles lend an appropriately spooky atmosphere to the museum. A wooden doll with horns is on the back table.
Looks like Jack Nicholson.
The Historical Voodoo Museum is brimming with items authentic and original. An official voodoo wish and stump. Rub it and make a wish, a card says.
Funny, I say the same thing to women.
Thank you, Gabriel.
A striking portrait of a turbaned woman is on the back wall. Gabriel wonders who she might be. An authentic-looking pole marks the center of the room. Authentic what? Gabriel isn't sure. A very large, very formidable-looking snake is secured in a plexiglass cage. A beaded gourd is on display. Dr. John is a huge man. If his manner weren't so pleasant, he'd be intimidating.
Could I ask you some questions?
That is why I am here.
Thank you. Oh, Getty. That sounds pretty sketchy.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo? Or the voodoo currently practiced in the city?
Let's start with historical.
Tell me about historical voodoo.
Very well. I will start at the beginning, Mr. Knight, and will go on from there at your prompting.
Time to take notes.
Sounds good.
As you may know, voodoo is a grassroots religion formed by the mixing together of many different African tribal religions and Anglo religions, such as Catholicism or Protestantism. In other words, it is a religion born of the African slave trade, but African slaves were imported not only by the United States, but also into the West Indies, where the French and Spanish ran plantation islands. Prior to 1803, the New Orleans area was owned by France. The French Creole in those days owned many African slaves. But the Creole did not permit their slaves to gather, giving no chance for voodoo to breed here natively. The Creole also knew enough about the corrupted pagan practices of the West Indies slaves to ban the importing of slaves from that region.
So, how did voodoo come to New Orleans?
After the Louisiana Purchase, American legislators relaxed regulations. Slaves were permitted to gather. The Americans also removed the ban on West Indies slaves. Around the same time, a slave revolt occurred in Santo Domingo, what is now Haiti. Between the lifting of the ban and the Haitian revolt, West Indies slaves began pouring into New Orleans. Some of them were free people of color, freed or escaped slaves. Some came with their white owners who were fleeing from the revolt.